Okay, so I'm back, and it told me when I did the video that it's going to be in 2 files, so this might be like a 3-file situation. So this is the divinity of Divine Mother, is teaching you this ideology that whatever you're seeking outside of yourself, it's already within you. It's already within you. Justice is already within you. Wholeness is already within you. So this brings me to, so I got that, and then I got the strength card, because you need strength. And if you ever do the strength card and you get any visualization, what I learned about the strength card is that it is the ability to tame all of the things or all of the ideologies of what others say about what you can do or what's possible. And you bring that and you hone that in for yourself, and that you make that in service. Because in most times the strength card is the visual of a woman having a lion tiger by her side, and she has that tiger at its tamed. So the tiger, a lot of people, associate that with some other thing. For me, the tiger was this ideology of the patriarchal construct that I had been living in so long, and then the empowering of the balance between divine masculine and divine feminine, and what that was for me, and reconstructing the ideology of those, because I had a very miscued understanding of, because the patriarchal concept has absolutely no reflection on divine masculinity. It has no, and the patriarchal concept of woman has absolutely no truth or reflection of what I know to be divine feminine in nature. So having said all of that, so that was an 8-8. Those were the 3 cards that I got. And so for 9-9, I used those same cards. I meditated on those same cards because Spirit was leading me not to change them. And what Spirit did do is led me to the cards. I was using the Hoodoo Tarot deck. I cannot remember her name, but just look her up. She's also an author of, really good hoodoo book. But I come from hoodoo tradition, through my maternal line, and through my maternal line, from both grandparents. Both grandparents, their parents practice the medicine that we know as hoodoo, that was often misconstrued as voodoo. But for hoodoo that they practice, because they both come from the Carolinas, the 2 opposite Carolinas, North Carolina, South Carolina, which is those particular. And then I have a paternal line who is French Creole, and also with the Louisiana practice of Louisiana voodoo. So all of that comes into nature, but nobody ever talks about these things. Nobody ever tells you that this is Spirit. And so until you start working with the ancestors, you don't know your faith history of practice, because like what I always knew was Islam and Christianity, because those were the 2 that were presented from mother and father. The other stuff was never talked about, even though it was practiced. It was practiced, and if you knew what to look for, you knew what you were seeing. But because it was just common practices of things that were happening in the families, it was something that you didn't, kind of necessarily associate to. This is an ancient Native American practice. This is an ancient African practice. You don't understand those things because, you're living your life and you're just trying to survive this thing that we call life. So That was my 8-8 portal. So then the next drawing I didn't do until the 10-10 portal, which is extremely significant for so many different reasons in my particular life. And maybe one day I'll talk about why. But for the 10-10 portal, I had gotten the Belly of Sekhmet card, the Temple of Carnelian. I got Truth is Unveiled, and I got, which is the middle card, which is present time, and then I got High Priestess, which, if anybody knows me, if you're doing the like evolution of souls, then you know that once a person evolves, there's a thin line between Empress and High Priestess, except the Empress is not necessarily a person who is practicing from her spiritual center. She may have her solar plexus and her chakras in order, but she may not be practicing from her third eye. She may be practicing basically on, I'm trying to live right and trying to manifest right, and I'm trying to keep everything in order. I'm trying to be a blessing, but she might not necessarily be engaged in third eye living. She may not be always trusting divine in her choices. She may still be, in the sense of she understands her own power or whatever. She understands that power came from source, but she is not always making every decision in her life from a spiritual premise. And so those are the journeys of, a lot of divine femmes who are called to be specific type of workers on the planet, to do specific spiritual work on the planet. You go through these particular phases. So I got that card. That ain't even my zhush at the moment, but this is what ancestors are saying. This is your truest calling, is High Priestess. But you got to go through some stuff, ma'am. And, going into the belly of Sekhmet is understanding, because Sekhmet, for a lot of people, define her as wounded healer. I just feel, I don't believe that she was wounded healer. I think people misunderstand the, because, people look at her behavior and they judge the behavior of her evolution of how she walked into her calling as healing was from destruction. However, what had to be, she was ordered to do those destruction from a higher point, because those people had lost the way. And there's sometimes, like I talked about, extremities. People have to experience extremities, because if Sekhmet was the real issue, she would have been removed from the planet, but she wasn't. She was transformed, and that energy that she used, that Kali energy, that energy of absolute destruction of that which no longer serves, that energy was transformed into, because it's the same energy, it depends on just how it's directed. So I had to learn about that, because of course I have a pattern of a history that was destructive. I had that. And even in that, anybody's life who I ever hurt, I never went into their life without blessing them with something. And it's always interesting, like, when you have exes who always put out, oh yeah, she did this. It's so funny that they never tell you, when she came into my life improved. I cleared my debt. I, was able to pay off this because she worked really hard, and she also paid my bills. Not only did she pay my bills, she took care of my child. She took care of me. She took care of home. She was very present. She was the one who pushed me to get my degree that allowed me to have this career. She gave me this beautiful child. Like, they won't tell you all of the amazing things that you did in their lives. They will just say, this is what she did and this person. And they won't tell you who they are. They won't tell you that, yeah, the things that she did I understand that why she felt like she did them, because I didn't protect her. I didn't fight for her. I didn't push her towards healing. I felt like she was only there to serve me, and I wasn't trying to be in service of her. People won't tell you all of, the energy or all of the stuff, but I never went into anybody's life without being a blessing to them, regardless to all of the negative things. And I'm not trying to discount any of the things that I did wrong to people. Wrong is wrong is wrong is wrong is wrong. And I am accountable for all of the things and all of the ways in which I hurt people, all of the ways in which I violated their trust, all of the ways in which I didn't show up as my best self for them. I am responsible for that. And, even with my children and abandoning them because of the relationships not working out. And, if you have children with men who don't know how to share and who want to punish you because you decide that this marriage, this relationship, this thing doesn't work for you anymore, and you have children with them whose ego may get involved and they want to hurt you by destroying your relationship with your children, and you don't know how to fight, and they know that about you, then the thing that they will use, that they know this will hurt her the most if I remove her from this child's life. And it is what it is. And then you become the villain, because in our society, mothers are everything. And if you take a mother out of a child's life, or you create conditions that mother doesn't feel like she has a place in her child's life, there's a consequence for that. There's a consequence for that behavior. And at the same time, mothers who are absent, we have to be responsible for our absence. We have to be responsible for our abandonment, because abandonment is abuse, period. But it will continue, and it will go in generations and generations, because people believe, I have a lot of relatives in my family who believe because they're present, like they're present in their kids' lives or whatever. Like my mom was always like a physical presence, but my mom was absent as fuck. Like, she was absent as fuck because she was going through her thing, and she resented being my mother. She resented, but then she had me when she was so young. We never bonded. And I don't blame my mom for that. I understand. I mean, for a long time I did. I blamed her for not being the mother that I wanted. But hallelujah that I got to the point that my ancestors helped me to teach me that I chose this mother. I chose this woman because this is who I needed to have in my life to restore the truth of my soul, to restore the truth of my being. Like, she allowed me to come through her as a portal, she and my father, and to have the experiences that I had with them and my stepfather. They had, I had those journeys, I had those experiences with them so that I can come into myself. And, blame serves no one, because wanting my mother to be something that she was not but what she was able to give me is priceless, is valuable. And, there will always be a soft spot in my heart for my mother, because she chose me. I don't think she necessarily had a choice being in 1968, being a teenage mother of a child that she may not have been prepared for, but she chose me, and she did the very best that she could with the information she could and the knowledge of self. Who the hell knows who they are at 17 years old? And here you have to be responsible for another human being. She had no idea what she was doing. She had parents. Her parents were getting divorced around the time that I was born. So there was a lot of transition around the time. In transition, if you don't know about the conditions in your life, you will resent them and you will not know how to use them in your service. Transitions have always been the catalyst of my strength, but I didn't know that. I thought that that was why I was so unstable, because there was always transition, and I would create instability as opposed to transition. When you need to transition, it doesn't mean that you have to be unstable just because you're transitioning. Instability happens when you don't understand this is a transition, and this can go very smoothly in life, or it can make you unstable because you resent. Sometimes we resent change. We don't want to change. We don't want to change things that we need to change. So my grandparents needed to be divorced. And that was happening not just on my maternal side, that was happening on my paternal side as well. So there was all of this transition, and here is this new life. And so people did not necessarily know how to celebrate me. I was somebody who was very well provided for, because in the times, that's what people did. People provided very well for children because they were the future. And it's like, this is the first grandchild that's coming into the home. This is the first grandchild that's doing this, and we need to provide for her. We need to make sure she has all of the things. This is the new generation, but at the same time, all of these adults have so much stuff going on that the thing that I needed most, they were not able to give me because they were not in grasp of it themselves. I needed spiritual maintenance. I needed emotional maintenance. I needed psychological maintenance. I needed protection. They were just being providers, and people who sheltered me, but they weren't protecting me, and they were not making sure that I was emotionally balanced, because none of those human beings were living a very healthy emotional lives. So I said all that to say is that the truth that came unveiled to me was, it was just so much truth. But one of the truths, I talked to you guys about this for years. I have had cyber stalkers, and they have taken on different people, have gotten involved or gotten pulled into it. So like originally it started with a very wealthy real estate developer moving into my community, blah, 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 blah. This real estate developer had a regional manager, and all of these people are alpha males. All of these people are traditional males. All of these people are people who would necessarily look at a woman of color and say, you don't matter, we can destroy you. And so, that's kind of what their attitude was you don't matter, we can destroy you because we decide that we can. So that had happened, and in doing that, I learned about my own strength. I learned about my own character. I learned about my own integrity. And I knew there's a line in the Course of Miracles. If you've never studied the Course of Miracles, I suggest you do it. It says, nothing real can be threatened. So all of the things that they were threatening to destroy in my life were things that were not real. The first thing they went after was the marriage. And the love that I had for my partner was real, so they couldn't destroy that. So they could, go after that person and do all kinds of destruction in that person's life, just because that person didn't trust me enough to protect them from that. Because, when I was saying this, all of these things was happening, that person didn't agree. So then, then that person that I was married to and had, this soul tied to, got connected to other people who saw me as a threat because they were tethering to him. And even though I was not the kind of person I'm the kind of person that if somebody I'm involved with says they want, or their behavior says, because I was with a coward who didn't have the courage to say, I don't want to be in this marriage anymore. They were just doing really foul behavior, and their behavior was saying, I don't want to be married to you anymore. So I believed their behavior, and, I let go, and, divorced this person, energetically way before we were, actually legally divorced. So these people felt my presence as a threat. So then these people started to connect, and then they got into this like group, because I live in the Midwest, and in the Midwest there are groups of people who group themselves together. And so if this one brother has a issue, it may not even be true what this brother's saying. This is my issue, and this is my issue, and this is why we got to take this person down. And these would normally be people who would have some type of ability to reason or whatever, but this was happening around the age that reasoning was disappearing from people. So all of these people who did not have or were not exercising the ability to reason were jumping on this. So this became a much bigger situation of all of the things, whatever the things were. But I had been spending so much time focusing on what they were doing to me. Cyber stalking is just psychologically, energetically a bunch of mess. Like, it is annoying to have someone, clone your phone. It is annoying to someone to have somebody clone your emails. It is annoying to have someone have access to you and share this access with other people. And for these people to energetically connect to you, because we're always on our phones. Our phones play a big part. And then have these people to affect the lives of other people inadvertently that are in your life and affect your lives in ways, and you don't understand, how this is blessing you, because you're in, the turmoil of the stuff that was going on. So I kept being focused on, what I didn't want, as opposed to paying attention to, here's this group, here's all these people connecting to this particular energy, trying to manifest this particular whatever they're manifesting. And in all of this, I am being still. In all of this, I am manifesting everything that I say I'm manifesting. In all of this, my gifts are improving. In all of this, I am being blessed. I am being protected. My relationship with my ancestors are growing. So every time they do something in an effort to cause ill will or cause harm, what I'm noticing is the reaction to that is I'm manifesting all the things on my list that I want to manifest. I'm manifesting all the things that are a blessing to me. So I'm like, okay, I had to shift, and it took me doing some serious spiritual work to shift, to understand what was happening. And it's true. This is a universal law that I'm figuring out, that when you have an intent to do no harm to people, because people say, well, innocence, people yes, people do experience. I mean, if you want to look at somebody like Yeshua, look at what his own people resulted in Yeshua being crucified. That's the ultimate thing, somebody taking your life. And, they were crucifying him because they didn't want their people to see him as the King of Jews. They didn't want their people to see him as the Messiah. So they got together and plotted and planned. And their intention was, we need to take him out because we don't want our people to see this Nazarene as this thing. So this Nazarene... What happens? This Nazarene ascends, and what happens? This Nazarene becomes the focus, or the faith principle of multiple different sects of being held in high honor and all of this stuff. And the name of this Nazarene is in history. And I don't care if the earth goes out. I believe that the name of Yeshua will probably always be as an ascended master. But what I'm saying is the intent was to get him off the planet, and then the absolute opposite of what they intended to do, the absolute opposite happens. So this is what I know, that when people intend harm, even if they go as far as taking someone's life, the what's going to happen is the opposite of what they think in their mind is. Because there are some people who are so ridiculous who will do, we see it all the time. It's like why murders happen. Like, people are in a marriage and the marriage is getting divorced, or the people are getting divorced, and they don't want to accept the reality of what is. You see wives and husbands all the time conspiring to have the other person taken out. Like, if you've ever, there's a good film, and she played that part. Like, Lady Gaga gets all my respect in The House of Gucci. That is a perfect example. Thank you, Spirit, for giving me that. In The House of Gucci, I'm not going to give it away, but that is an excellent point to what I'm saying. You don't want to accept what is, so you go and do this stuff. And, there's so many people that you have the intention of, because you don't want to accept life on life terms, you want to manipulate it, you want to do it. And there's a lot of people who feel like, okay, well, they hurt me, or they did this, or they dissed me, so I got to go and I got to one-up them, and I got to do this. And they make all these plots, and they all make all these plans. And some of them even, manifest the plans that they do. But what always happens, never, ever, 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 ever fails to happen, their life, the trajectory that they thought for their life, never manifests in the way that they thought it would. Never, ever, 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 ever. And the people who gained all of that money from the slave trade and the cotton trade, the tobacco trade, and all of those things, those people, until this day, are being in the service of these people, the people in this country. They're in the service of, they have to pay. It's not like they just to get back the rest. And everybody in their lineage, in their line, has been fighting, has been greedy, has been, distraught. It's like, whatever you do, whatever your ancestral line is, until you do the work of trying to heal that shit, that stuff is always going to affect you and the generations after you, period, point blank. It just always is. So anyway, some of these people have, like, connected and tethered to so much stuff, like just trying to create delays for me, sending, they got wax dolls, they do chanting and incantations and all this stuff. And they don't realize that some of the things that they are engaging in is never, ever, 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 ever going to be against me, because there's nothing. And I had to learn this from my ancestors. I had to learn this from source. Like, if you understand your body, you understand your makeup, you are water, you are fire, you are earth. We encompass all of that. So if somebody is using water, somebody is using language like words. The word spoke itself. So what does that mean? In the beginning, there was the word, and the word was with God, and the word was God. Okay, if the word was with God, that's me. I'm the word. So you can speak whatever you want to speak, but those words are just alphabets. And when they come to me, they're going to bless me in whatever way. And you may see different things, but the only way those words were ever affecting me was when I was living in lower vibrational energy. That is why, anybody who is walking a spiritual path and you're dealing with somebody else, you will tell that person, vibrate high, elevate your vibration, because it is in this higher vibration that you do all the healing. It is in this higher vibration that you do all of whatever the spiritual work is that you need to do. It's in that higher vibration that you manifest that. So what I learned in that thing is that there's nothing in creation that will ever go against me. Does that mean that weapons won't form or whatever? Does that mean that somebody can't walk up to me today and shoot me in the head? Whatever happens to me, whatever that person intention is, like, because sometimes people will feel like if I just get rid of her, I won't have karma. Or some people will commit suicide because they don't want to deal with the consequences of their choices. So they think, okay, I'll just shoot myself, or I'll take these pills, or I'll slit my wrist. And then what they find out is that they evolve to transition to another side where they're dealing with the same bullshit that they tried to escape from, because we owe what we owe what we owe. So the whole point is, if you have been given the gift of this life, do the motherfucking work that you got to do to heal whatever the fuck you need to heal, and get the fuck on and go, transform